Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 5th of November. It's bonfire night, fireworks evening. Although people down my way can't read calendars, it's been a fireworks evening for the last 2 weeks, I think. But Chris Jack joins me to discuss all things Rangers. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. Not bad at all.
Got any bonfire nights, any fireworks evenings tonight?
Nothing planned yet, saving my fireworks for Thursday night. Hopefully, I'm sure Josh will be dodging them as he works his way through the streets. By all accounts, an interesting atmosphere awaiting Rangers over in Greece on Thursday night. But no, there's one not that far from here, so I might head out later on. Depends how the working day goes.
I think it's going to be a fiery atmosphere for Rangers over there in Athens on Thursday. We'll look ahead to that game. Before we do, Chris, of course, we haven't had you on since Sunday's comeback win over Motherwell at Hampden. Rangers will meet Celtic on the 15th of December in that League Cup final. The confirmation of the kickoff time was announced yesterday. That match will kick off, folks, at 3:30 on Sunday, the 15th of December. It's a decent kickoff time, you've got to say. Glad it's not the usual early kickoff. And I was going to say I'm looking forward to that game, but Rangers have to improve greatly if they're to retain the trophy, I feel. But Chris, what was your main takeaways from the game on Sunday?
Can we look forward to that game? I think there's a lot of football to be played first. Not least the visit of Spurs just a couple of days before it, but we can deal with that particular set of circumstances and those particular issues a bit nearer the time. Sunday, I thought first half was largely dreadful. Second half was a lot better. Rangers deserved winners in the end. I think there was a chance there for Motherwell that they didn't really look like taking. They obviously get the goal through Andy Halliday, and then never really caused Rangers many problems after that. I think certainly if Motherwell had scored again, if Motherwell had got the second goal in the game, it's probably a long way back for Rangers at that stage. But they start the second half better, get the goal, and when it goes to 1-1, you would then always back Rangers to go on and win it, and they did. Could have won by more. Certainly deserved to get through in the end. I still think there was issues certainly in the first half, but it was a game that Rangers just had to win. They had to get through. They could not have sustained an exit at this stage of the competition, given everything else that's going on over the course of the season, given everything else that's going on at the club at present. So it was one of these ones they just had to find a way through it, and thankfully they managed to do that.
Defeat would have been terminal for me if Rangers had lost it at the weekend, but buys a manager some time heading into the game on Thursday. I'm not necessarily overly concerned about that. Rangers may win, Rangers may lose or draw, but domestically is where they need to get their house in order. Incidentally, folks, if you want to learn more about Olympiacos, I did speak to Ari from a very popular Olympiacos podcast. It's available just now for those of you that are extra members on the Rangers Review channel. It will be available to all just after lunchtime this afternoon, and from what he says, it sounds like they are the Greek Rangers, set up very much in the same way. Have found life difficult against teams domestically, are set up for Europe. So get your money on a goalless draw on Thursday evening. One player we never really went in on massively yesterday, Chris, was Cyril Dessers. So we'll discuss him a little bit today, because it looks like he will be leading the line on Thursday, given that Danilo is not part of the European squad. I wanted to touch on this point from Kev before we get to Dessers and the future of the Rangers strike force. He says, Derek, given there are 5 European games to go, did Clement blunder by leaving Danilo out the squad? He was quick to criticise Beale for leaving Ridvan out last year. Do you think he maybe... My mic has just been unplugged. Do you think he maybe regrets not having him part of the squad, Chris?
I did find it strange at the time when the squad was obviously confirmed and announced for this stage of the competition. I think it does leave Rangers short of alternatives in that number 9 role, and it does put a lot of pressure on Cyril Dessers, not just in terms of scoring goals, but in terms of being available and being fit enough to actually get through the minutes. And I think Clement's justification at the time was he can use Danilo in domestic matches and use Dessers in some European matches, and perhaps can mix and match them a wee bit. It's not really been the case. Also, given Danilo's injury situation, having to work himself back up to full speed. Really pleased to see him come off the bench. I thought he made a difference on Sunday. He offers something that Dessers just doesn't in terms of movement, being able to hold the ball up better. I don't know if he is the answer to all of Rangers' problems in that area of the pitch, but he's definitely a welcome addition to the options there. Dessers has not been a good couple of weeks for him. I wrote in my analysis piece on the site on Sunday, the miss late in the first half, it almost just summed up where Rangers are and where Cyril is right now. But then you give him credit because the finish for the goal is actually quite an accomplished one. He does well, right place, finishes it well, gets his goal, and that's just the frustration. That is the highs and lows. That's the roller coaster of life as Cyril Dessers and life watching Cyril Dessers. He will obviously start on Thursday. Be really surprised if a man gets the shout. So Dessers starts on Thursday. Depending on how Danilo is he worthy of a shot against Hearts at the weekend? I think potentially. Depends how much work he can get through this week. At some point, Danilo is going to be up to a level of fitness and up to a level of sharpness where the manager does have a real decision to make. Is it a case of Dessers is the best man for the system, or is Danilo the best man for the system? Right now, the decision's almost taken out of his hands just because of where both players are. But I think having Danilo back up to some form of level where he can contribute, I think that would actually be good for Cyril Dessers. Would allow the manager to take him out the firing line a wee bit, not have to put the same level of expectation on him. And you might find that wee break and that taking that weight off his shoulders a wee bit could actually be a good thing for him.
Yep. I mean, it leaves Danilo fresh for the domestic games, I guess. You just hope, I mean, given that he's been injured for much of his Rangers career, that he's over those injury issues and he can go on a sustained run of games. It certainly did look more mobile for me. I think the second goal doesn't come if he doesn't drag the defenders away as well. So for me, it's a massive upgrade on Cyril Dessers at this moment in time. He is what he is, as we know. Like, the finish was a decent finish when he's not got really time to think about it. But then you say that that opportunity in the first half, although I do think it may have been a shout for a penalty when he was taken out as he hit that ball. But just the overall play, Chris, I'm not talking just about opportunities on goal, shots and what have you. It's general link-up play. It's bordering on non-existent at this moment in time. Moves break down when the ball reaches Cyril Dessers more often than not. His second touch is often a tackle or a scramash, and it's not clean when you play it to him. And basic things like just passing the ball to a teammate, he has to be better at that on Thursday.
He does. That link up between the three in behind and Dessers, it's not there often enough. I think we spoke about it after the Aberdeen game last week. Rangers too often look like a side who are relying on moments from players. They're relying on someone doing something special, like Bayrami did up at Batodri. That wasn't a goal carved out through a pattern of play that had clearly been worked on time after time on the training ground. It was Bayrami getting the ball in a dangerous area and having the skill and the awareness to beat a couple of players and then find the corner. Too many moves, as you say, break down when Dessers has to can lead the line in that way. I don't think he's also helped by the relationship with Tom Lawrence. Just doesn't work. I think, how many times have we mentioned that over the course of Bayrami's Rangers career, I'd like to see him operating in that number 10 role. We know that's just not possible right now because of other issues in the squad. I would hope, and I think that Diomande could offer more in that 10 position than Lawrence. Could Diomande have a better relationship with Dessers? Perhaps. But as you've outlined there, that relies on Dessers being able to do his part of it. Can he get Rangers up the pitch? And I know that's a point that Josh has made a few times. Certain domestic games suit Dessers because of the way that Rangers dominate the ball, the way that Rangers are able to attack. Other games, and Thursday night could be an example of this, when you need your striker to allow you to get up the pitch, when you need them just to hold it in or take it in and then be able to find someone or hold off a defender, perhaps win you a free kick. When you need him to do that side of it, it's just not there. You think back to peak Morelos and a number of these European games, like handling entire European back fours on his own because of his movement, because of his strength, the way that he could take it in. Dessers just doesn't have that. I think it's still to be proven that Danilo has that. I think he's a different type of striker than Dessers. Is he of that style that could be as effective as Morelos was? I don't think so. I think if he is, we'll still to see it. The thing that Danilo still has to prove, of course, is that he can score the level of goals that's expected from a Rangers number 9. Most injuries denied him that chance last season. Dessers did manage to get through that 20 mark. He will certainly be aiming for that 20 mark again. How many is Danilo going to be able to contribute over the course of the season? But I think as Yuki pointed to there, the second one doesn't happen if Dessers are still on the pitch because the movement's just not there. That's what Danilo brings. So he may not bring the same number of goals individually, but is he a better option all round for this side? Does he allow whoever's playing number 10 to be more effective? Does he offer a better option for the guys out wide? I think he probably does, but we can't just write Dessers off, put him out to pasture and say he'll never kick a ball for Rangers again. That's clearly not a realistic situation. He does still have a part to play. But as I mentioned earlier on, I think we need Danilo back up to a level and a standard to really offer Clement a proper alternative.
Yeah, just on Diomande, I thought it was interesting seeing Andy Halliday speaking about him in his introduction to the game for Tom Lawrence. He said that Tom Lawrence is someone that just likes the ball into feet, but Diomande improved Rangers. He drags you out to places that you don't want to go, which is something that we don't really speak about with regards to Diomande. That is, of course, Halliday coming up against Rangers at the weekend, a fellow pro speaking about it. I agree with you, Chris. I think he will play in that sort of 10 role for Rangers on Thursday evening in place of Tom Lawrence. I don't think the Lawrence-Dessers partnership should continue. It doesn't work. If you're playing one of them, play Lawrence, but I don't want to see that again. Well, I think we will see it again, probably, given the manager, and it ties in with a comment that comes in from Colin. He says, why won't the manager play two up front? He just doesn't believe in it, really. He's stuck to his ways, his system that he likes to play. He likes that striker up front with the two wingers and the 10 in behind. It has served him well at previous clubs, and I just don't see him changing it any time soon, despite many, including myself, wanting to see a bit of variation in him changing it up top. I can't remember the last time Rangers played two up front, Chris. When we're going back, not unless it's like a desperation effort in games.
My memory for these things isn't quite as good as Josh's. He'll have that stored in a wee subfolder somewhere in the back of his mind. My memory's not as good as that. I think you are going back a fair time. No, certainly with it when it being an actual tactical approach, rather than, as you say, just we've got nothing else to lose. Number of managers in the last wee while have that's not been the preferred style. To pick up on the point that was raised there, the manager was asked about this on Friday. Would he move to a different system? And he believes it would cause more issues than it would solve right now. And he pointed to the lack of training time that they've got. You also look at this week, for example, you're going from Sunday, you've got a recovery day, you've got a bit of work today, you've got your travel day and press conference duties Wednesday. Play Friday, you're then back, and it's the same straight into the game on Sunday. by the time you then get after Sunday international break, a number of the key members of the squad are obviously away. You then can't work on changing a system when you don't have a number of the main guys there to work on it. So I do have a bit of sympathy for Clermont in that regard. The schedule just doesn't lend itself to being able to work on that. But I don't think, even if they had all the time in the world, I don't think it's something that they would look for anyway. No, this is the way that he has been successful in the past. This is the way that he believes will be successful again. So whether people like it or not, if there's anything that's going to change, it will be personnel here, there, and everywhere. It's not going to be the system. The system is the system.
Yeah, just on Rangers' last partnership up top, the sniper says Novo and Purso. Andrew Phillips as well, Novo and Boyd. Yeah, going way back if that's the last double act. Of course, the best Rangers team, certainly of my lifetime, had two up front in Ali McCoist and Mark Haitley. And look how good they did. So, yeah, bring it back is what I say, but I'm sure Philip Clement will not regard anything I've got to say on that front. William White, I can sense sarcasm here, says, put Sterling up top. Don't think he's played that position yet, but it leads us nicely on to Dujon Chris. He was another one I felt did well when he came on. Big call from the manager, bringing James Tavernier off. I couldn't believe my eyes. Said it yesterday when I seen Dujon moving to right back. That's the reason he was brought to the club in the first place. Does he start there on Thursday?
No, that's the $1 million question. That one, isn't it? I think Josh touched on this on his piece on the site yesterday, and how unusual it was to see Rangers needing a bit of inspiration, needing a goal, chasing a game, and Tavernier comes off. So many times over the course of his Rangers career, he's been the guy that the team has turned to, that managers have turned to, that teammates have said, well, it's fine, give the ball to Tav, or put the ball in the right area and Tav will pop up and do something. He's been that figure throughout recent seasons. He's been the guy that has stepped up in these moments, and it was really interesting that when Rangers found themselves in that moment on Sunday, he was one of the guys that was sacrificed and one of the guys that had to come off. If it was me picking the team, I would go Dujon Sterling, but I think James Tavernier will play. I would be really surprised if it doesn't. We spoke about there that the manager sticking to a system. Can you now looking at the way that he wants to play, looking at his stubbornness, if you like, in terms of going with this setup. He has a loyalty to the system. His loyalty to certain players has been questioned. Dessers falls into that category. Tavernier certainly falls into that category. I think he will remain loyal to them for now. Ultimately, though, there has to come a point you look at how much improved Rangers were once those two players were off the pitch on Sunday. I don't think that was any coincidence. At some point, does the manager believe it's the best thing for the team and ultimately the best thing for him in terms of his job to not play Tav, to not play Dessers when he has viable options and when he has viable alternatives? So if it was me, I think Sterling offers more right now. And again, a reference back to the what I said about Dessers, you're not going to write him off. You're not going to say he'll never kick a ball for Rangers again. Unrealistic, complete a situation that's just not going to unfold right now. But that doesn't mean to say that he has to play every game. He has to start every game. I know his press conference answer on Friday sparked a bit of debate. I think there are numbers out there. We've seen them. A couple of the boys have flagged up that suggest that Tav is actually having not a bad season. And some of his numbers are good. But I think there's a perception thing. The manager spoke a bit about perception last week, and the perception of Tav right now is that he's going through a really bad time of it, that his form is not there, that his fitness is not there, his physicality is not there, and that he's suffering and Rangers are then suffering as a result. He does look like a guy who's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders at times right now. And I think, like Dessers, if the manager had a viable alternative to Dessers, it makes sense to bring him out. He does have a viable alternative to James Tavernier. Bring him out for a bit, give him a rest, take a bit of that weight off his shoulders, And if you believe that Dujon Sterling is good enough to be the Rangers right back, and he's good enough to earn a new long-term contract, at some point we're going to have to find out whether that contract is merited and whether he's going to be the long-term right back. There is no better time than now. If Tav was in sparkling form and playing really, really well and contributing in the same way in terms of goals and assists, and was bringing everything that you expect James Tavernier to bring to the side, this wouldn't be a question. The fact that it is a question because he's not in that form. When he's not in that form, his place should be up for grabs the same way as everyone else in the squad.
Yeah, nobody should be in the team on reputation or previous performances. And Tavernier at this moment in time, for me, doesn't deserve that starting slot. Do I think he starts on Thursday? Probably yes. But it will be intriguing to see who Philippe Clement goes with. I wanted to touch on this from Ross. He says, anyone see Alan Hutton's comments on Dujon Sterling? This is on the Premier Sports, Scottish Football Social Club podcast. He says, I was watching him as the teams came out. He looked disinterested. I watched him in the warm-up. He looked disinterested. I watched him at half-time. He looked disinterested. It was a worry. He even strolled by the manager, head down. He didn't even look at the road he was on. It felt to me like something was going on. Don't get me wrong. He then came on and burst into life, so fair play for that. But his whole demeanour looked off. What do you make of that, Chris? I think Dujon Sterling sort of carries himself in that sort of way. That's his whole demeanour. As long as he's doing the business on the park, I'm not necessarily overly concerned about his demeanour off it.
No, like you, I think I didn't notice those aspects of Dujon on Sunday. I didn't actually see him on the TV coverage or going around Hampden before the game, so not something that I picked up on myself. But like you, as soon as he actually steps on the pitch, as long as his attitude is right and he does his job for the side, I don't think the Rangers fans will be too fussed about whether he strolls about the park with his headphones on or whether it's head down and straight up the tunnel after the warm up. As long as he's doing the business, he's actually required to. I don't think people have too many issues. And as you referenced there, he almost carries himself in that way. He's quite a quirky, chilled, laid back guy at the best of times. So I think that's just him, and I wouldn't read, as great as DJ says there, I wouldn't read too much into it at present.
Yeah, let's start him on Thursday. I want to see more of him, please. Interesting point as well. This is what the podcast is all about. Billy gets in touch. He says, Chris, can you tell me the colour of your wall under the window? Looking for that exact shade for a room. Cheers, mate. Can you help Billy out, Chris?
It's something blue. I can't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure exactly what kind of blue it is, but Billy, once I finish the show, I'll go and dig around the shed, see if I've still got it, and I'll let you know next time I'm on the show. I might still have some left over for you.
Is a good shade of blue. I wouldn't mind that myself, actually. So, cracking stuff. Just on striking duos, Leonardo gets in touch. Right enough, Miller and Boyd come on. He says, those were a fantastic partnership for Rangers a few years ago now, of course. This point from Stephen, again, touching on comments, says, should we read anything into the manager refusing to answer the question on Tav's form? This is in the press conference after the game. He said... he was quizzed, why do you think James is unable to hit the levels of last season? Pretty short and swift answer. I'm not going to speak about individual players today. I'm not going to do that. Should we read too much into that, Chris?
No, I think he's probably seen the reaction to what Tav himself said just 48 hours before, and then thought it's just not worthwhile getting involved in. And not really surprised that he chose not to. At some point, I think he does have to actually address the Tavernier issue, and not just in terms of team selections and how he goes about his business on the pitch. At some point, I think he has to address the number of games that Tavernier has been played. When he said in the summer he wouldn't play as much, I think he has to address his form. No, he is the Rangers captain. He is there ahead of anyone else to be critiqued and to be judged. So at some point, it would be interesting to know the manager's thoughts on Tav as a captain this season and as a right back this season. But I say, having seen the reaction to what Tav himself said a couple of days previously, I don't think it's a surprise that he thought, why create something? Why create a story on the back of a good comeback win, a second half that ticked a lot of boxes for him? He clearly wanted to speak about that and to have that being the comments rather than something on Tav.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. I don't think he wants to create a story out of Rangers getting to that League Cup final. Just on that shade of blue, Darren says it's staunch blue. So, yeah, go and ask for that in B&Q or Wicks or wherever you get your paint from. And I'm sure the folks will be able to rustle up a good wee tin of that. Right, a few more points before we wrap up for the day. Well, firstly, Leonardo gets back in touch. He says, Chris, remember that you have an invitation here in Rome. Super guest at Italian Gers RSC. You too, Derek, Forza Rangers. Superb stuff. We'll take you up on that, Leonardo. Fancy a wee trip out to Italy. Never knew about that, a Rangers supporters club over there. So, yeah, should get ourselves down there for a few days, I'd imagine. I think we'll need to put that to the boss man and hopefully get a wee jaunt sorted out. This news yesterday as well, of course, the international break coming up. Day in the Life says Barron called up to the Scotland squad alongside John Suter for their upcoming games against Croatia and Poland, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Nations League matches, isn't it, Chris? But good to see Barron called up. He's been called up before, hasn't been used yet. It would be good to see him get some minutes, I'd imagine.
Just on Leonardo, before I touch on Conor Barron, I actually did an interview with the guys from the RSC about 2-3 seasons ago, maybe. It'll still be online. It'll still be online somewhere, and goes through Leonardo's story of how he came to Ibrox for a game and how he fell in love with Rangers. So worth if you can dig that piece out on a website somewhere, it will be there in the very, very back end, because quite a lot has happened since then. There's a lot of pieces I've jumped ahead of it, but it was good to catch up with him. And as you say, we'll put a good word in with the bosses and see if we can get that trip sorted at some point. An international break.
Before you dive in there, I found the story. I'm going to stick it in the comments here, folks. So go do it and go and check it out. So yeah, batter on in, Chris.
No, a good an international break would be a good time for a wee trip somewhere, just to give us something else to talk to rather than Scotland issues. But pleased for Barron to get that call up with John Suter in the squad as well. I'd be surprised if Conor gets too much game time over this window. You look at the other options in the middle of the pitch. I think he's down the pecking order. But it's a good experience for him to go away, be part of that international squad. Any minutes he could get would be great. But I think he's probably just there for the experience. I'd be surprised if he sees too much game time. Suter maybe must have got good reviews from his last performance. He's maybe got more of a shout. As I see someone mention in the comments there, I think the most important thing from Rangers' perspective is all these boys coming back fit and healthy. You need the two Scots certainly, and you're looking at likes of Barami, likes of Cherny. You need these guys back. Rangers, the situation that they're in, cannot afford to be losing players, and certainly key players at this time.
Yes, I don't think we've got you on before the game on Thursday, Chris. So how do you see it going? Do you think Rangers are going to do the business out there? I've just got a funny feeling it's going to end up in a bit of a stalemate, having listened to what Ari told me yesterday. I just think two teams may just cancel each other out. How do you see it going?
I think you mentioned earlier on, get your money on 0-0. I would take a 0-0. I think that'd be a really good result for Rangers if they could go out there, show a bit more about them defensively, get a clean sheet. A point would certainly not be a bad result. If you look at the section and how this new league is playing out so far, it's still quite hard to tell how many points you will actually require to get through, either automatically or get through into the next stage. You've also got a couple of really tricky games coming up. The trip to Nice in a couple of weeks. You've then also got Spurs, which speaks for itself in terms of how difficult it will be Man United, no doubt, still bouncing from the new manager bounce by the time we play them in January as well. So Rangers, they have done, I think, almost as people expected so far. I don't think there was a lot of faith they would pick up anything against Lyon. So it's been an okay start to this campaign. This squad, they seem to have saved some of their best for European action. They seem to be able to raise the game. It seems to suit them. If they were to go out there and put in a great performance and get a great result, you're probably not that surprised. That's just the almost schizophrenic nature of this Rangers side at present, and then obviously come back and stink the place out against Hearts on Sunday. If they could take a point on Thursday and 3 points on Sunday, sorry, I think that would give people a bit more of a cheery disposition heading into international break.
Yep, it would take a draw. Hearts is a bigger game, of course. The league has been an absolute disaster, let's be honest. So Rangers need to start getting their house in order with regards to that. But that match on Thursday, Joshua is heading out to Athens for his folks, so we'll have all the usual build up to that game. He'll be joining us on the show tomorrow alongside Stevie. We hope you can join us for that. And if you haven't subscribed as well, hit that subscribe button. Lots of content coming your way on the YouTube channel as well. We'll have plenty of coverage from Greece and much, much more in between as well. Right, that'll do us there. Thank you to you all as ever. Big thanks to Chris also, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.